a única saída para a evolução da humanidade, e de nós estamos aqui, a raça adâmica, quando eu disse que é com o corpo, é por quê? Porque o retorno para os níveis dimensionais somente acontece em vida. Então a vida humana, a encarnação humana é a coisa mais importante que nós temos em mãos. E é por isso que o sistema, os Anunnaki, o governo oculto, agem para criar um sistema para cortar a vida humana, para impedir a nossa sobrevivência e o prolongamento da nossa vida. Jesus Cristo, muitos vão até duvidar e vão achar isso uma loucura que eu vou dizer aqui. Ele ensinou e veio trazer esta verdade de volta para a humanidade. A vida eterna, a ressurreição. E ele provou isso. Ele foi com o corpo embora. E está vivo até hoje. E disse, vocês farão muito mais do que eu fiz. E eu deixo aqui o legado para o povo, para a humanidade, para aqueles que eu escolhi e são aqueles que vieram trazer esse conhecimento para a Terra no passado.
Os evangélicos falam alguma coisa sobre
o arrebatamento.
O arrebatamento.
É uma distorção um pouco disso.
É uma distorção.
Mas não é aquilo lá. Você não vai estar aqui e de repente você vai ser abduzido, não é isso? Não.
É mesmo porque, né, seria complicado.
Não,
né?
Agora, o que temos que fazer e viver para chegar nessa consciência e nessa transmutação?
O que você crê que é necessário?
Uma vida seguindo os princípios de consciência e de um treinamento para que você consiga realmente manter a sua frequência em nível alto, para que o seu corpo acompanhe também esse desenvolvimento, para que você realmente consiga prolongar a sua vida e, diante de um treinamento, uma possibilidade que está possível e aberta a todos hoje, como sempre aconteceu no passado, todos consigam essa transmutação.
Olha lá embaixo, vamos filmar lá embaixo, olha lá. É, comandante, não tem como mais, comandante. As pessoas têm que saber disso. Não dá para esconder mais. Não tem como. O governo vai ter que revelar isso para o mundo. Oh my God! Gente, as imagens que nós estamos vendo aqui nessa expedição vai chocar o mundo.
Olha o que uma expedição descobriu na Antártica. Essa expedição que foi rumo à Antártica, ao paredão de gelo, né? E aí vai esse navio furando, quebrando o gelo todo da Antártica e chegam diante do grande paredão. Isso, uma equipe de exploração. E aí viram o quê? Do lado do paredão, uma vegetação, do jeito que eu venho falando, do jeito que eu venho comentando, que não só isso, não é só vegetação que tem na Antártica, não, né? Tem mais coisas. E agora, olha aí, ó, eles encontraram essa abertura e desceram uma câmera através desse buraco. E o que eles descobriram lá embaixo na Antártica? Descobriram que existe uma outra terra, existe um outro espaço onde tem vegetação morta lá embaixo.
Esta é a melhor prova da Terra plana que você já vai ouvir. Isso vai fazer você repensar tudo o que acha que sabe. Pense nisso. Por que quase todas as civilizações antigas descreveram uma Terra plana sob uma cúpula ou o que chamavam de firmamento? Egípcios, hebreus e até sociedades secretas como os maçons mostram a mesma coisa em seus símbolos. Veja a Bíblia. O Gênesis diz que Deus fez o firmamento e separou as águas de cima das águas de baixo. Se você der zoom nas estrelas com uma câmera potente, como uma Nikon P900, elas não parecem bolas de fogo distantes. Elas cintilam como se estivessem debaixo d'água. Isso parece mais o espaço sideral ou água acima da cúpula para você. E vamos falar sobre a estrela polar. Se estivéssemos girando e voando pelo espaço em velocidades absurdas, a estrela deveria se mover aleatoriamente, mas não é o que acontece. Elas giram em círculos perfeitos ao redor da estrela polar, como se tudo lá fora estivesse girando enquanto ficamos parados. Agora, por que eles esconderiam isso de nós? É simples. Se você soubesse a verdade de que a Terra é plana e cercada por uma cúpula, começaria a questionar tudo. As elites querem que acreditemos em um espaço infinito para nos manter perseguindo distrações. É mais fácil controlar as pessoas quando elas não sabem seu lugar no mundo. A verdade? Ela sempre esteve lá, nos textos e símbolos antigos. Eles a esconderam bem à nossa frente e nós estávamos ocupados demais para...
All hands, hoist the colors high. Heave ho, thieves and beggars, never shall we die.
Now some have died and some are out.
Everything in the universe is geometric. Whether it's people, trees, cats, planets, solar systems, you name it. Literally everything in the universe can be measured on a geometric scale. In this same way, we can actually identify that creation is also geometric. And what we're going to look at today is the pattern of creation and see if we can't glimpse the source of all things. Essentially, everything in reality is said to come out of this single pattern. I'm not making this up. This single image will change everything. It's called the flower of life, and it's said to be the creation pattern of everything in existence, even non-tangible things like emotions and thoughts, because this pattern begins with the subtlest vibrations of consciousness far beyond anything our current technology can measure, and extends through every possible frequency and into the physical material creation. It is said that there are 13 information systems that comes out of the flower of life, likely relative to the secret ancient Egyptian 13 chakra system, no doubt. Today we're going to look at how the physical reality manifests, which is one of the 13 systems. It's also important to note that at first, this might not make sense. I ask that you watch with an open mind and try and see if this resonates with you. As always, have your own experience. Take what resonates and leave the rest behind. One more thing, by learning about sacred geometry simply by observing, you're absorbing only a very small amount of information. If you want to learn more, I recommend you draw it yourself. When you do this, you begin to see things in a new way. You begin to create new mental patterns and connect with your own higher understanding. Promise. The flower of life has been known around the world throughout history. It was found in Ireland, Turkey, Israel, Egypt, China, Greece, Germany, India, and Iceland. It's also been recorded to be found in England, Tibet, Japan, Sweden, Lapland, the Yucatan, and about 14 other places. This thing is everywhere. Surely a pattern of such global significance must mean something, right? This pattern is called a flower, not just because it looks like a flower, but because it represents the cycle of a fruit tree. A fruit tree makes a little flower, which then goes through metamorphosis and becomes a fruit. Within that fruit contains a seed, which falls to the ground and grows into another tree. The cyclical nature of reality is seen as the flower, fruit, seed, and tree, which is a pattern created within and through this very geometry. We can relate this with many.
They never wanted you to know this. While most people live trapped in the third dimension, chasing money, status, and approval, as a small group has already learned to operate in a state where time and space are no longer barriers. You, without realizing it, already tap into this frequency from time to time, but you have been conditioned to ignore it. This knowledge has circulated in restricted circles for decades, used to accumulate power, shape events, and attract opportunities. Meanwhile, you have been trained to believe that everything depends on struggle, sacrifice, and waiting. Every day, trapped in that logic is another day, and your energy feeds systems that survive on your distraction. Now, there is a chance to break this pattern and access the real mechanism of reality creation, the one that turns intention into event and desire into fact. But this window will not remain open forever. Those who do not adjust their frequency now will remain stuck in the old machine. The decision is in front of you.
Most people live under the comfortable illusion that reality is stable, fixed, and obedient to immutable laws that conventional science describes. But this is only a partial narrative, carefully shaped to keep attention locked on what is visible and measurable. Behind the solid appearance of things, there is a dynamic vibrational field where consciousness and energy intertwine, and it is there that the true architecture of human experience is designed. What we call the physical world is nothing more than one layer of a much broader spectrum of existence. Quietly, a portion of humanity already operates beyond it, even without realizing it. The transition underway is not political, nor is it technological in the superficial sense. It is a mutation in the very way of perceiving and interacting with reality, the passage from the third to the fifth dimension. This is not about moving to another planet or crossing celestial portals, although some traditions use that symbolic language. It is a leap in the quality of consciousness, a shift in the vibrational state that radically changes how events, relationships, and circumstances manifest. The fifth dimension is not a separate territory in space. It coexists right now in the same place you are, just like multiple radio frequencies coexist in the air. What changes is the tuning. While the third dimension is dominated by the perception of separation, effort, and the linearity of time, the fifth is based on interconnection, flow, and simultaneity. This means that the job you imagine, the house you visualize, and the relationship you desire do not need to be pursued as distant targets. They already exist, waiting only for your frequency to align so they can collapse into your field of experience. This assertion directly contradicts the chase after it logic that shapes modern culture. From an early age, education and society program the mind to believe that achievements are the direct result of physical effort and relentless struggle. However, those who already operate, at least partially, on the frequency of the fifth dimension know that this equation is reversed. It is not brute effort that creates, but the sustained internal state. It is the coherent vibrational field, charged with clear intention, that magnetizes people, circumstances, and opportunities. Science still hesitates to state this openly, but studies on heart coherence, electromagnetic fields, and neuroplasticity already leave cracks for this understanding to seep in. The interest in this subject is growing because, for many, the signs of this transition are already tangible. Some notice coincidences, multiplying to the point of defying statistics, meaningful encounters happening at perfect moments, or a sense that something is coordinating events with invisible precision. Others report subtle physical changes, greater sensitivity to environments and people, a periodic need for isolation to rebalance, or even an inner shift that makes it hard to sustain old conversations and habits. All of this can be interpreted as symptoms of a vibrational realignment that has already begun. This is not mere mystical speculation. Modern interpreters of ancient spiritual principles, such as Neville Goddard, have shown that the human imagination is the creative power in action, operating behind the scenes of reality. His thesis, that feeling is the secret, converges with the fifth dimensional experience. By feeling the desired reality as if it is already real, consciousness reconfigures the energy field and collapses space-time, attracting the corresponding scenario. What once seemed like a miracle reveals itself as vibrational engineering. This is not a process reserved for isolated monks or rare visionaries. It is available to anyone willing to abandon the restricted view that life is a linear sequence of purely physical causes and effects. Here is the unsettling truth. This change is already happening on a collective scale, whether you are aware of it or not. Ignoring it does not stop it. It only delays your conscious participation in it. In the course of this exploration, we will uncover the mechanisms of this transition, the concrete signs that you are already living, at least partially, in the fifth dimension, and the ways to stabilize this frequency until it stops being the exception and becomes the norm. To understand the scope of this dimensional transition, it is necessary to first deconstruct what is meant by dimension outside of the limited vocabulary of school-level physics. Common sense tends to reduce the idea to spatial coordinates, such as length, width, and height, plus time. While this definition is useful for measuring objects and calculating trajectories, it is insufficient to explain realities that can be perceived by those who enter expanded states of consciousness. In spiritual and esoteric contexts, dimension is not a physical address, but a vibrational pattern of existence, a state of consciousness that determines the quality of the reality that is perceived. The third dimension, which dominates the daily experience of most people, is characterized by a perception of separation between the observer and the observed, by a linear time that appears to move in a single direction, and by a constant need for effort to maintain or to achieve anything. This is the dimension where matter is perceived as solid, physical laws are taken as absolute, and identity is shaped by the ego and by external narratives. Here, a person's value is often measured by the ability to compete and to accumulate. The fifth dimension, on the other hand, operates under completely different parameters. In it, the notion of separation dissolves. It becomes clear that everything that exists is interconnected by an invisible field, and time ceases to be a line and is experienced instead as a set of coexisting possibilities. This does not mean that matter disappears or that physical laws stop functioning. It means that interaction with them takes place at a subtler level where consciousness directly shapes the course of events. In 5D, creation does not arise from physical effort, but from the sustained vibrational state. This understanding did not appear out of nowhere. It is grounded in ancient traditions that, under different names and symbols, already pointed to the existence of multiple levels of reality. Vedic texts describe lokas, interpenetrating planes of existence. Hermetic schools speak of subtle and dense planes coexisting. Christian mystics interpret the many mansions in my Father's house as a metaphor for states of consciousness. Neville Goddard, one of the most incisive interpreters of this vision in the 20th century, insisted that we do not go anywhere. We simply enter states. For him, every scenario and every person in life is a direct projection of the internal state, and altering that state inevitably alters the external scene. This view resonates with contemporary research into the interaction between the mind, the body, and the electromagnetic field. Neuroscience has documented how coherent patterns of brainwaves, aligned with heart coherence, produce physiological changes and influence the perception of reality. The HeartMath Institute, for example, studies how the electromagnetic field of the heart, which is far stronger than that of the brain, can be influenced by emotional states and, in turn, interact with the environment. Quantum physics, though often misinterpreted, already acknowledges that the observer influences the behavior of particles at the subatomic level. While these findings are not definitive proof of higher dimensions, they weaken the narrative that consciousness is merely a byproduct of the physical brain. In today's context, ascension is spoken of not as an escape from the world, but as a gradual realignment of vibrational frequency, both individual and planetary. This shift affects the physical body, which must adjust to sustain higher states of consciousness. Symptoms such as heightened sensitivity to sounds, lights, and the emotional fields of others, changes in sleep and diet, and even sudden shifts in interests and values are often reported by those in transition. These adjustments are not random side effects. They are the biological system's responses to a different energetic pattern. According to this perspective, the Earth itself is also undergoing a vibrational elevation. This is not merely a poetic metaphor. Measurements of the Schumann resonance, the planet's natural electromagnetic frequency, have shown significant variations in recent years. While conventional science attributes these variations to solar and ionospheric factors, some alternative researchers maintain that these spikes are correlated with collective expansions of consciousness. If that correlation is more than a coincidence, then the shift is not merely internal, but part of a systemic recalibration involving the entire planetary ecosystem. During this process, challenges do not vanish. On the contrary, they become catalysts. Old problems and conflicts resurface, not to punish, but to offer portals of expansion. In 3D, an obstacle is a wall. In 5D, it is a door, and passing through it requires dissolving attachment to drama and to the victim narrative. This is one of the most destabilizing aspects for those beginning to awaken, realizing that blame does not lie with others or with circumstances, but with the internal state that sustains them. Here again, Neville Goddard is direct. Changing the world means changing yourself and nothing else. Understanding these fundamentals dismantles the limited view that confines human experience to a single plane of existence. It also prepares the ground for grasping how, in practice, it is possible to consciously operate in a higher vibrational state without abandoning daily life. From here, it becomes inevitable to examine how this principle translates into practice and how it changes the fundamental logic by which reality organizes itself. At the heart of this entire shift lies a principle that, to a mind conditioned by the third dimension, can seem almost heretical. It is not you who goes after what you desire. It is what you desire that is drawn to you, as long as your internal frequency is compatible. This reversal of the dominant logic is the backbone of life in the fifth dimension, and it is not merely an inspirational metaphor, but a specific energetic mechanism that can be measured in vibrational terms. In 3D, the paradigm is linear. First, you identify a goal, then you create an action plan, and finally, you apply continuous effort until the target is reached. This approach is based on the assumption that there is a real separation between what you are and what you desire,